Week 1 of the ProQuest Las Vegas season is in the books, and this inaugural season of Silver Age has a lot of data prepped and ready for us to go over. So let's start off by talking about the best deck in this new Season 0 format, and that of course is Briar. Like, for those that were all seething about how powerful Kano was and how unfair the deck is and how it's just a win button, you don't understand the format, nor do you understand Kano, because really the true win button out there is Briar, and I know that for a fact. Over the past several months, I've been prepping a bunch of different decks for Silver Age. I've been prepping, in fact, for ProQuest Las Vegas for the better part of a month, because I would like to earn myself a PTI and actually play in a Pro Tour. I've never gotten to do that before because I'm always making videos 3 times a week just for you. You're welcome. So I thought, I'm gonna really grind out and prep and get some games under my belt and go on and maybe pick up a PTI. And then, of course, last week, everybody discovers how powerful, I shouldn't say last week, over the past 2 weeks, everyone discovers how powerful Kano is if no hate is applied, and they remember that, I can just hate him out with Polarity and Oasis, or I can just, be really aggressive and just punch them in the face until they die. The problem is that Kano is never really the issue. Everyone's over here seething. Kano's not the issue. Briar is the issue. The deck that goes consistently overrate in just about every hand and every turn cycle, unless they completely throw up on themselves and pass out in the corner. Yeah, it's that deck. That's the deck that's the issue. And right behind that deck is the other deck that just goes absurdly overrate for essentially free, because this format doesn't really have fatigue anymore, and that's KO. Okay, these two decks are so highly above the other decks in the format, it's not even really close. 50 wins for Briar, 40 for KO, so a 10-win difference, and then 16 for the third best deck in the format, and I do believe it is the third best deck in the format, and that is Decimator Great Axe Dorinthia, the deck that I almost pivoted to last minute before going 3-2 and bubbling at 9th, losing my last round because I didn't have a single point of damage. Or I guess I should say I needed 1 more point of damage, because that's the true Kano life. The true Kano life is the point of damage we missed along the way. So, yeah, anyway, I'm not upset about that at all. I feel quite good because I had to high roll my way there against a very hostile meta as Kano. And right behind Kano, of course, in 4th place is Ira in 5th, and then Bravo, Flattering Showman, Enigma, Dromai, and Phi. Behind Phi, you've got Oldham, Olympia, Rhinar, Vincent, and then a smattering of other heroes, of which I would like to note that Lexi, I feel like, could do better, and Riptide definitely could do better. For those that are out there going, why is Riptide even on this list? Riptide is low-key good into multiple of the top heroes in the meta. So to understand this more, and to help you understand what this meta really means, I am going to do something just for you. It's tier list time, baby. We're doing a tier list. We're not doing the whole thing, but we're doing a good portion of it. Briar is so S tier, it's not even funny. I mean, she's so up there. This hero desperately needs a nerf. She's begging, well, really, she's not begging for a nerf, but we all are begging for a nerf. And I am honestly going to put KO alongside of her because it truly has felt in testing, both as Kano, but as a bunch of other heroes as well, that if you're not favored into these two decks, then, or not favored, I should say, if you don't have a game plan into these two decks, then you're really just not worth playing. Like, you can try to pick a hero that counterpicks the meta, but let me show you what that actually means, okay? Decimator Great Axe Dorinthia, who should be right around here somewhere. I don't know if these are actually in order. F, yeah, G, D, here she is, Dorinthia. Dorinthia sits in the A tier for me, and Dorinthia has a tough time into, well, maybe not tough time, has an unfavored matchup into KO and an unfavored matchup into Briar, but they're both close and you have a shot at both of them. I think if you play well, you can skill gap a KO and you can keep everything in front of you for a Briar. And that's why I almost picked this deck to to go out and play in my ProQuest. Because this deck does feel very consistent, very strong, and it feels really good into most of the other meta except Dromai. And that's a big key point because I think Dromai is underrated as well. This deck is, in my opinion, like I said, unfavored into these two, but it does have legs into them. It can win into them, and it can win into the rest of the field. Now, again, this doesn't seem like I'm really breaking the mold here, but this is how I felt the meta has been this entire time. And I've seen people like be putting Kano up here or like Kano. No, it's not where it belongs. Kano is unfavored into all three of the best decks in the format. If you believe this is the case, Kano loses to all of them unless Kano gets really lucky or plays Jacob Clement's level of like play. Okay, this has to get lucky to kind of outpace the Decimator Great Axe Dorinthia. This has to go second and then has to hit spells off the top on both the turn 0 and turn 1 of the game against both of these heroes. If you're put going first and like against SV3 AB2 version of KO, or if you're put going first against AB3 version, which is how my round 5 ended, then you're gonna have a bad time unless they just play so scared. Right, then you have a space, and I almost got there in round 5 to maybe make it into the top 8, but I bubbled at 9th because I lost that game, and that's just how it goes playing this volatile deck. This right here is a very volatile deck, but it is very favored into some of the other aggro decks, one of which I will say it's not favored into. I do think Fi is probably like the second best aggro deck in the format. If you're not playing Briar and you want to play an aggro deck, then you play Fi, and I think Fi is very well positioned, and I also think that Ira is very well positioned. I think these two are like neck and neck in my mind. You could really go either way. You could put them in either order, and honestly, and this is a crazy statement, I actually think that, these are maybe better positioned here. Kano has a worse matchup into Ira than he does into Fi here. So it really depends on how you feel these two decks stack up against each other and the rest of the format. But you could honestly pass Kano up to both of those. I'm personally putting it here, but you know what? Honestly, I think I'm coping. I do think that should probably be the case. I think maybe this is the most correct, but we're kind of splitting hairs here, of which Kano does have a lot of hair. Either way, I do think that this is probably more correct now that I'm thinking about it. And then the question you might ask is like, how do you metagame this meta? Like, what's a hero that actually has a pretty solid matchup into this? And you're not going to sit there and believe me, but I'm going to tell you anyway, and you can take it for what it is. Riptide actually has a freaking fantastic time into all of these heroes, including but not limited to Dorinthia, because Dorinthia oftentimes is doing some of the things that trigger traps, and Dorinthia does have the capacity to block him out and play it more like a Guardian. This is probably his worst matchup out of everyone that's listed here, is this Decimator Great Axe Dorinthia, but he can still win that matchup. But this is a favored hero into KO, a favored hero into Briar, and a favored hero into the two ninjas. He's a dog into Kano, but I've played from this perspective, and if you just rush him down and play Polarity, it's the way you win as KO. You can do it as Riptide as well if you're playing very aggressively. So the thing about it is, this is a hero that has specific Silver Bullet style cards against a bunch of these heroes, can also play aggressively, can demand blocks, and also can punish, some of their lack of understanding, we'll put it that way, of the hero that you're playing. I am a big believer in this hero as long as Guardians don't exist. And that's the thing. If Guardians exist, he falls off the face of a freaking cliff, okay? But the moment that happens, you just pivot to Dromai, because I do think Dromai is also quite good in this format. Unfortunately, not against the ninjas and against KO, but against the rest of this board, Dromai actually has a fantastic time. I threw Flavo up here. By the way, I didn't mention it, but I do think Bravo Flattering Showman is a very solid hero overall. In fact, I'm going to have a how to play on the Bravo Flattering Showman deck coming out. So for brand new players or for anyone that's just kind of getting back in the game and wants to know how to play that deck, it's going to be a quick, easy guide. You just open the deck up. Here's how the game works. Here's how the gameplay of that deck works. It's going to be great. So I do think this hero is pretty solid overall and has some tools to combat some of these heroes right here. But at that point, I think things start to really fall off. I think Enigma can be good, but is susceptible to a lot of hate from some of these other heroes in general. It's kind of dangerous to play out there. I think that there are some other kind of sneaky heroes. Like I don't underestimate like Lyeth, because I do think Lyeth is scary and spooky in certain respects. I am of the opinion that Lexi is underrated as well, but I don't know if there's a lot of players that outside of the snapshot Lexi are really, I shouldn't say this because I do think that there are people that are teching in things that are silver bullets like Arctic Incarceration Red against Briar and technically against KO as well. But at the same time, you have to find those and then you have to choose the line to play that out and actually like kind of throw it down. So, I mean, it's really kind of a toss-up. And then there's a smattering of other Guardians as well. There are people out there that are playing like Viserai and Florian Fatigue, but I personally don't believe in those. But I will say I do believe in Vincent as well. And going past this point, you kind of get into like the splitting hairs. Like some of these other heroes can be very solid in a vacuum. Like it's unfortunate that Azalea is where she is right now, not being towards the top here. And it's unfortunate that some of the assassins maybe aren't as good in this format as you might think. But overall, this to me is a very clear indicator of the best decks in the format and how these other decks kind of slot in after it. The problem, though, is that for Briar and for KO, there's really not as much counterplay as you would like to see. And if you're going into the next couple of weeks of tournament play, I have to say that you probably want to just learn one of those two decks, Briar, KO, or maybe Decimator Great Axe Dorinthia as the third option. Outside of those, you've got to be a really freaking good player on your deck. If you're playing Ira or Phi, or if you're trying to counter with Riptide, know those matchups. And if you're playing Kano, you got to basically do what I think several other people have started to realize, and I came to the realization of like the night before. I'm like, it's just not going to work if I'm trying to play like, this back and forth and very meticulous and planned out. You kind of just have to high roll a little bit. You kind of have to get lucky. So you build a list and you run it in a way that allows you to get a little bit lucky and run a little bit hot. So if you want to play Kano, maybe I'll make a video about the deck I brought because I feel like it's actually, it's got a lot of little things in there that make it a little easier to high roll. So I don't know if that's something you want, let me know down in a comment below. But week 1 is done. Where will we go for week 2? Well, it's probably going to be more Briar. So if you want to see me complain about Briar, let me know that in a comment down below. And of course, make the number go to the other number. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.